All right, welcome in. I'm the Kodiak Broncos Podcast, and today I'm here to talk about what should the Broncos do in the draft. More specifically, should they trade up for Tyler Warren or Ashton Jeanty in this year's upcoming NFL draft? But before we get into it, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, leave a like if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're not already. You can always wait until the end. Hopefully, I will have earned it. Just want to give a huge mile-high salute to all of you for the support lately. And yeah, draft season is upon us. Let's get right into it. If you had not seen my video about whether or not the Broncos should trade back in this year's NFL draft, go ahead and watch that one as well. But I had this exact same slide on that video as well, so I want to open with that in this video too. So this is basically one idea of what it would be like to trade up for us. So 2019, when we took Noah Fant, Pittsburgh traded the 20th, the 52nd, and a 2023 round pick to us for 10th overall. And in that year, we ended up selecting Noah Fant. I don't think the price would be as steep as 20 plus 52 plus a 2023 round pick with some scenarios that we had been, outlined for us, and if we were to trade up. But yeah, ultimately, this is basically the ballpark of what you'd be looking at, maybe without a future. But 2014, Arizona to New Orleans, the 20th pick for 27th and 91st. So that is an idea. This is if you were to trade back. In 2009, Dallas to Detroit. 20 plus 82 plus 192 for Roy Williams plus 210, and Detroit ended up taking Brandon Pettigrew with the 20th pick. So the projected compensation for if we were to move back was something like 20 plus 52 for number 12 plus a 5th rounder. So here's how I got that. I got that because I can't remember who did this. I think Reuter did a mock draft on NFL.com, and basically he had like 6 win-win trades for teams throughout the draft board. And in this, he had us trading up and selecting Tyler Warren. So there are a lot of good ideas or good arguments for why we should draft Tyler Warren, and I'm going to get into that. But basically, the Broncos received the number 12th overall pick, number 149, which is a 5th rounder, and the Cowboys received 20th overall as well as number 51. This would be fantastic for the Cowboys because they just don't really have a lot going for them right now. They need like pretty much anything they can get, and this could make sense for us as well, because I do think that Ashton Jeanty or Tyler Warren would elevate us to new heights. So let's just talk about this. So here are the arguments for trading up. First of all, adding one of Jeanty or Warren, I say would make us a legit Super Bowl contender. I think something we really, really need is A, a running back of Jeanty's caliber, or B, a tight end of Tyler Warren's caliber. And honestly, I feel like adding both makes us equally as strong as a football team, even though I do think Jeanty is better as a prospect than Warren is as a tight end. But Week 1 of 2025, there will be instant premium impact players for whoever drafts them. So I expect them to come into the NFL and absolutely dominate right away. Now, a caveat is that the tight end position usually takes a little bit of time to translate to the NFL, and even the best ones, Brock Bowers, he was kind of like a locked and loaded instant impact player, but that's very rare. That's very rare, and honestly, even the ones that have been drafted high over the past few years, they have not really panned out, at least instantly, for the teams that drafted him. But also another thing is this front office and this coaching staff has had basically zero resources the past few years. Missing a tad bit more picks doesn't really impact us that much. Okay, so over the past 3 years, we have gone into the 2022 draft missing the 9th overall pick. We went to the 2023 NFL draft missing the 5th overall pick. And in 2022, 2023, and 2024, since we traded for Russell Wilson and Sean Payton and we were so devoid of draft capital, we did not have our own second round picks in any of those years. We did have a second round pick in 2022 because we got it from the Rams in the Von Miller trade. It was the last pick of the draft. We used it to draft Nick Bonito, or it was the last pick of the second round. We used it to draft Nick Bonito. And other than that, we did move into the end of the second round in 2023 for Marvin Mims. But other than that, we've kind of been a wasteland of draft capital. Like, our team has just not really had that much draft capital to work with. So yeah, that's how I feel about our current situation as well. Missing a tad bit more picks, this team clearly doesn't need like a high level of investment. They've had pretty much probably the second most impressive turnaround in the NFL over the past few years. I would say number one is Washington, since they made the NFC title game. But and we've done it with basically nothing to work with resource-wise. So yeah, this draft class is deep in the middle rounds, I will say that. But the premium players aren't easy to come by. I still think the only blue chip prospects, there was only like 5 or 6 real blue chip prospects in this draft. I would say Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, Mason Graham, Ashton, Jeanty, Tyler Warren. So I do view Warren and Jeanty as blue chip guys who would be locked and loaded, high picks in any other class as well. So here are some arguments against trading up. So even though I just talked about how we don't need a full slew of picks to be a successful team, as indicated by the fact that we've made a really, really good name for ourselves with such limited capital over the past few years. But the contrary is, imagine what we could have done had we kept all those picks. Imagine what we could have done had we had a full arsenal of second-round picks those past 3 years. So basically, we made the wild card round. We went 10-7. We had a spectacular turnaround, but we are still feeling the effects of not having depth, unfortunately. And by the way, running backs and tight ends are not premium positions. So with the running back position and with the tight end position, I just want to say a couple things. First of all, running back has had a value bump in the past year or so because of guys like Josh Jacobs, because of guys like Derrick Henry, because of guys like Saquon Barkley. But we're going to see an overcorrection on the running back market. They're still drafted high. Like Bijan went 8th overall in 2023. Gibbs went 11th or 12th overall in 2023 as well. Saquon went 2nd overall in 2018. And I'm not here to say that I agree with any of those picks or I necessarily disagree with any of those picks, but it's still a position that if teams get their guy, they're going to not hesitate to pull the trigger. And honestly, we've just suffered from some pretty poor draft classes. I would say as of late, like 2022 in particular, didn't really like that one for running backs. 2024, not really that good either. Like literally the only running back taken in the second round last year was Jonathan Brooks, who literally had to build an excuse if he didn't work out. And he didn't. He tore his ACL again, so that's already a wasted pick by Carolina. And honestly, we'd just be smarter attacking defensive line and wide receiver round one. Running back and tight end would be the fun picks. They would be the fun picks, and they would give us a really, really good, I would say, short-term peak with the Sean Payton offense. But with defensive line and wide receiver, I think it would be better for us to sustain what we currently have. Because running backs, they still have a relatively short shelf life. They're just so highly volatile still. Like even after what Saquon Barkley did, when you give a good team that has a good offensive line, a running back of Saquon's caliber, like last year can be the result. But on the contrary, like I don't know, I still don't think Bijan 8th overall was that good of a pick for the Atlanta Falcons. And even with our offensive line, I still think that it would be. I mean, Ashton Jeanty would add so much to our team, but I just don't think it would be the smartest to trade up for any running back, no matter who it is. Also, this draft class, yes, everyone says it's deep. Everyone says it's deep in the middle rounds, and particularly second and third rounds. And it's deep at running back and tight end, which is fantastic for us because that is what we need. But it's not as deep if you're missing your second and third round pick, unfortunately. So if you trade up, you really got to make sure that this works out. And I do think it would. I'm not here to say that Jeanty or Warren would fail on our team or anything like that. I think the opposite, but yeah. By the way, this is mainly talking about tight end position, but tight end round one has an atrocious hit rate from 2017 till now. And the opportunity cost for a running back may just not be worth it. So from 2017 until now, if you look at the tight ends drafted in round one, I would say only 2 of them were worth it. Bowers, whose team just finished 5-12, and that's not me blaming him for the season they had. That's just me saying that, even a season where Bowers went absolutely nuclear, his team still finished with a 5-12 record. And the others, who I would say would be worth their draft capital, would be David Njoku. And honestly, that's because he had a really good second year, but still, he took like 5 years to really show a lot of consistent play in the NFL. So Evan Ingram, don't even consider him a hit for the Giants. Kyle Pitts, huge waste of a pick by the Atlanta Falcons. Kincaid, like, how are you not getting 10 targets a game? Yeah, I just don't think that for the tight ends that have been drafted from 2017 until now, I only think 2 of them have been worth their draft slot, and that's out of 8 or 9 guys. Like, Fant wasn't worth it for us. Solid player, not a great player, but still don't think it was worth it. TJ Hawkinson traded in the division, so yeah, I just don't think it was worth it. Now, opportunity cost for running back might not be worth it either. Running back, once again, still a highly volatile position, has had a resurgence, but ultimately, I just don't think we're really in a position to trade up for one. I still think that you're hedging a lot onto a running back if you were to do that, and they're still highly dependent on the other areas around them. Let me take a sip of water real quick. They're still so dependent on the offensive ecosystem. They're so dependent on the quarterback, the offensive line. And yeah, like even Saquon, for 5-6 years of his career, it looked like he was being completely wasted on the Giants. because they always sucked with him, and he never, like, towards the end, they had probably the worst offensive line in the league, and he just couldn't get much going. So this is basically a game of would you rather. So this is not me saying that one is better than the other, but this is me trying to be like, okay, this would be an idea of the opportunity cost if you were to trade up for Tyler Warren or Ashton Jeanty and you were to give up picks. So Tyler Warren or Colson Loveland plus Quinshon Judkins. Tyler Warren or Emeka Egbuka plus Terrence Ferguson. Ashton Jeanty or Marion Hampton plus Jaden Higgins. Ashton Jeanty or Matthew Golden plus Alfred Collins. So yeah, this is basically, I tried to mix and match positions out as well, but regardless, this is an idea of what it would be the opportunity cost of missing out on the 20th and 52nd or our mid-third round pick would be. So here's my verdict. It's time for this front office to have some real capital to work with after 3 years of strapped resources. I would rather us trade back than up. I do think that with our front office, yes, premium players would be nice, but I think more players would be better just because this coaching staff and front office, they have earned the right to, make them things easier for themselves. And I think trading up, unfortunately, makes something harder for yourself. Now, you might be saying, okay, what if you add a player of Ashton Jeanty's caliber? What if you add a player of Tyler Warren's caliber? It's still like a parlay in a sense. You're still hedging your bets very highly. You're still removing 3 picks or 2 of your draft pool and basically trying to say to these guys that, hey, we think that you're that much better than these other players that are going to be available at our spot. Once again, it's basically like a parlay. And I mean, if you're a betting man, there's a reason those casinos in Vegas are so nice. And it's not because parlays hit very often. But even if Jeanty and Warren help us become elite, I still expect us to still be as good without them because, once again, running back and tight end, they're really not positions that the smartest teams draft highly very often. So, yeah, this coaching staff also clearly knows what they're doing, even if we get lesser prospects. So, even if we have to dip into the second tier of tight ends, even if we have to dip into the second tier of running backs, I expect the overall record of our team to be the same. Regardless of if we have Jeanty or a tier 2 running back plus an extra pick. Like, that's basically the opportunity cost. And once again, I would rather trade back than up. I think that for us, since the holes in our team last year were clearly just based off of us not having enough depth or opportunity to go after positions because we were so resource strapped. But now it's how do we catch the upper echelon of teams in the AFC? And I think we do that by fixing a lot of holes on our roster. We've done that very nicely, but we need to get better in certain areas, depth-wise. So, yeah. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I had a really good time making this video, so, yeah. Follow me on Twitter if you liked what you saw today, and I'll see you guys next time. And I want to give y'all a huge mile high salute for sticking with me. Go Broncos.